By now you've heard the story. The East Area rapist, the Golden State serial killer. An ex-cop was captured 40 years after his crime spree started, nearly 30 years after it stopped. Police found the man by uploading DNA from the crime scenes to publicly accessible databases where other users can upload their own genetic profiles to find family and track genealogy. Now, it's a great thing that we have tools like DNA which can be used to positively identify a suspect with absolute certainty. But it's this specificity of DNA which makes it so dangerous. Police didn't need a warrant for this search, they just went looking. Based on information found on this database, police were able to obtain a search warrant for DNA samples, but not for the criminal himself, but for distant family members. The man's daughter said his family was not aware the authorities took a DNA sample from him while he was laying in bed at the rehabilitation center. In an NBC story from April 2017, the Ancestry DNA test required a perpetual, royalty-free, worldwide transferable license to use your DNA. Professor Greeley noted that DNA tests for genealogy are fairly cheap right now. Perhaps there's a reason for that. The low price consumers pay today might be subsidized by the future sale of their DNA data. It might be convenient to have a firm call you up and say you're likely to get a certain type of cancer and that you should be screened. However, that's not a sustainable business model, since you could get treated more cheaply at a competitor which didn't have to run a test or purchase a profile package. Envision this. Instead of a diagnosis, you're given an option much like the freeware of the computer era. You have 8 viruses and 3 urgent health problems. Purchase the full product to reveal your diagnosis. But this is an optimistic scenario. Firms and even individuals with coding skills or with various tools can collect, cross-reference, and collate genetic indicators, building up a practically unlimited database on the fundamental building blocks of people. This opens up the possibility of a veritable market of garbage hunters, digging through garbage not just for celebrity DNA secrets, but for information on the preferences and behaviors of you and your family. The possible abuses of DNA database are practically endless. If the police can track a murder suspect, the mob can track a witness protection victim. For that matter, any others hiding for any legitimate reason, such as escaping spousal abuse or a cult. Some biologists go so far as to say that all human behavior is the result of the interplay of genetic material, and that the environment, such as laws created by society, are selective factors determining the course of human evolution.
I'm a centrist guy, and as one of the people on the chat puts it, I never really take extremist position, but I would have to say that on the question of the theory of evolution and genetics, I'm more of an extremist than you, because I do not recognize that there is such a thing as independent environmental influence. But it's good that you're open to it. But personally, there's nothing in the environment that I can think of. There's not a single molecule of chemistry that you see around you. Look at the walls, look at the desk, look at the computer. This was all done by people who had brains that were created by DNA. And to that extent, I do not recognize that there's a single molecular interaction in the entirety of your existence that will not be impacted by DNA. Now, it's an extremist position, but I'm a biologist, so what can I say?
But actually, what I found really interesting when I researched this is there's like only like a couple of percent or so difference between, like, say, a human or a pig, or a human or a rat. Can you tell us a bit about that? Because obviously I'm not a biologist. Could you break that down a bit?
So the first thing to say is, even if the difference was so small, it doesn't matter. The difference has visual effects that I can observe. Therefore, it matters enough so that it changes people's skin, behavior, IQ, etc. And to the extent that I can measure differences, it's something that will affect reality. Because if you adopt the view of Richard Dawkins of the extended phenotype, then you have genes, and the genes, they don't differentiate between the limit of the outside of your skin or the inside of your skin. So when the gene output creates a structure that looks like a leg, the leg can be used to walk. If it's evolutionary advantageous, the genes survive, and at some point, everyone has legs. The same thing goes for social actions. If the genes start creating brains that are that experience some form of taboo and that end up expressing these taboos in political discourse, then if that brain is advantageous, the genes evolve, the genes continue replicating more and more, and eventually everyone on Earth has this taboo that they all agree on because they all descend from the most successful individuals who had that type of brain.
Typical comments on social media made statements such as, if you've got nothing to hide, you've got nothing to worry about. Well, if you're a serial killer, just don't use a DNA test. It doesn't matter how they caught him, at least they caught him. Or even, how about the day you were born, your DNA is put into the system, so that way, if you grow up to be a sick individual, they have no problem finding you. Sounds like a great idea to me, actually. If we keep this up, we could become a totalitarian surveillance state like Germany, where contaminated cotton swabs caused police to take DNA samples for more than 3,000 homeless women drug users who had a record of serious crime, and yet find no suspects. Now, in a truly progressive world, every German baby would be DNA tested at birth so that the government can easily find and imprison them when necessary. Recent news has revealed what most of us have known for more than a decade. Facebook takes our user data and sells it to third-person parties. The misuse of personal information from as many as 50 million Facebook users is setting off alarm bells with lawmakers and privacy advocates. Business Insider, the kind of information apps could access in 2014, included information like interests, likes, location, political affiliation, relationships, photos, and more. Malicious actors used its tools to discover identities and collect data on a massive global scale. Facebook said Wednesday that malicious actors took advantage of its search tools, making it possible for them to discover the identities and collect information on most of its 2 billion users worldwide. Extended profile properties allowed apps to access not only your info, like gender, location, and birthday, but your friends' information too, even if they weren't using the third-party app and hadn't authorized that access. Now, to really thicken the plot, Anne Wojcicki, the CEO of 23andMe, was married to Google founder Sergey Brin and his sister to YouTube CEO Sujin Wojcicki. These people have your intellectual property, your genetic profile, and they can buy your personal information straight from Facebook. This is way beyond NSA metadata collection. In fact, it seems part of an inevitable move toward biometric identification. And from what I am seeing, it looks like the sheep are happy to be tagged, as long as they are promised it will keep the wolves away.